Welcome to Intoxicated Masculinity, where we talk about drinking culture, pop culture, politics, and anything else that comes up. Joining me, as always, is Brandon.
Hello, my people.
Kale. And Jim has the night off. Tonight, we're coming up upon the holidays, and kind of didn't really want to prepare for a big, heavy episode, especially we kind of had a big, heavy episode last week. And so we're just going to kind of have a little chit chat, talk about the things that are on our minds. This is going to be you're going to get half of it now and half of it a week from now. So stay tuned. Let's start off. Brandon, what are you drinking tonight?
I've got a Negroni.
A Negroni. Kale, what are you having?
I'm having something I'm calling the watermelon wow.
Wow.
I'll have to explain it to you, but you'll have to tell us what you're drinking first.
Hey, you go ahead.
Okay, well, we're going to pretend that this is Wild Turkey 101 because it was supposed to be called the Wild Turkey or the Watermelon 101, but I didn't get 101, so we'll just call it the Watermelon Wow for now. But anyway, is your whatever your bourbon of choice is. Mountain Dew Major Mellow. No.
As we all have in our cupboard.
Your choice amount of lemon, I thought initially few drops, but I like lemon, so I'm going to give it a pretty healthy squirt. And then a dash of salt.
Fair enough. I would go with fresh squeezed lemon juice, but that's just me. I am just going with a dark daiquiri. Just a daiquiri made with an aged rum. It's actually a Glens Creek aged rum. I was just in Louisville and went down to Glens Creek, and also with some Demerara simple syrup. So it's a dark daiquiri.
All right.
So,
I keep forgetting I have some rum. I should make something with it.
is there still that rum Pellegrino, or not Pellegrino? That's definitely not it. Pellencourt?
Well, no, the one I have right now is the Venezuelan one.
Oh, is it Diplomatico or Pampero?
Yeah, Diplomatica.
Fair enough. Is it the Reserva, or is the brown bottle the green bottle or the white bottle?
Brown.
Okay, that is the Mantuano. Sorry, Mantuano. Brain's not working. That's a good one. That's a very good one. So I'm going to start off. Kale's got a couple little topics too. I just went on a really long vacation. And I thought we were going to do some of the stuff we're going to discuss kind of briefly, because I think we have a bigger show, especially talking about class. When we get around to it, I think we want to do some nice preparation for that. But the one thing I wanted to get into kind of very briefly is I just stayed when we were out in Los Angeles. We went to Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and Tucson. Then we went up to my brother-in-law's place in Minneapolis. And then this last weekend, I've been in Louisville. And in Los Angeles, we decided to use some of our Hilton points to stay at a very, very nice hotel in Los Angeles. I won't get into which one. It was a very interesting experience going from staying at nicer hotels to less nice hotels, and just sort of the way that you're treated and the way that the experience of staying there. And that was sort of what got me around the idea of talking about class and how if you have money, you sort of live in a different world. I don't know. What's the crappiest hotels you guys have ever stayed in? Like, just the worst places you've ever stayed?
For me, it was when we were on vacation. We were on our way back home when we had a stop in Kansas City. And I'm not a real strong planner. I just kind of play things from the hip.
No kidding.
So I found a motel that I thought was an American, but it was America Inn. And when we got there, it should have been called Welcome to the Hood Inn, because like the guy that was in the office was behind bulletproof glass.
That was a good sign.
Yeah, and just like it was in a neighborhood where it was mostly liquor stores and gun stores, and just not anything terrible about that neighborhood or the people who live there. It's just there's a certain stigma that gets slapped to those neighborhoods, and it just was an uncomfortable place to be in. you felt like you had to kind of watch over your shoulder.
No, I've stayed in some less than desirable places before too. Brant, what do you think?
Worst one's probably with you. On our East Coast vacation, we stayed in a place that I think it was in North Carolina. The thing had it was like a box and it had kind of like a plywood door. Oh, but then there was the one in Kansas City after Ozfest 99 where like people were just wandering back and forth and like stomping around outside. And the door had this giant gap in the bottom and you could like hear them and seeing feet shuffling by all the time.
It's funny. You remember vacations so much better than I do. I remember the night the place we stayed in before, and that was like okay, but too expensive. And I remember driving back, trying to make it back to Des Moines, and just being like we couldn't move. Like it's just like I have no energy. I can't. We were like, because you're like you go to the concert at like I don't know what 10 o'clock in the morning or something
Yeah,
like that, or
it
9
was
o'clock in the
about
morning.
12 and a half hours.
And yeah, I mean we didn't get out of there till I don't know midnight or 1 o'clock. By the way, saw Ozzy Osbourne leading Black Sabbath, which is that's something cool. Good story. And yeah, I remember getting to a hotel, and I remember that we stayed at a hotel on the way back. That's literally all I remember about it.
Apparently, my dad saw Black Sabbath in concert way back in the day.
That's something. That's something.
But he kept trying to like ramp up the crowd, but he was the last act of the day and just everybody was exhausted. Well, at least I was, but man.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of like where they're like, you want to see something else? And you're like, no, not really. I'm good. Thank you though.
Do the
Who
song.
wants one more
Let's
song?
go.
Not me anymore. I'm good. I'm fine. I've
It's gonna
seen
bite-
50,000 songs today.
Now, I remember you guys telling about the door-to-door crack salesman in Los Angeles.
Oh yeah.
Well, I don't know for
That
sure. He was
wasn't really
selling
on the
crack.
hotel.
I don't know for sure he was selling crack. He was selling drugs, definitely. But yeah, and he was definitely just going door to door, just asking people if they wanted to buy drugs, which you definitely know you're in a certain kind of neighborhood when somebody feels totally welcome to just be like, well, people are staying here. They're definitely going to want some drugs.
It was the corner of Hollywood and La Brea, I think.
Yeah. Yep. When Vanessa and I went out there, we drove past that place is still there and it still looks
Really?
exactly the same.
Nice.
Which is not a compliment. It's funny too, because when we went out there, they were just building that big mall it's there on Hollywood. And now that place looks kind of old and a little dingy, which is funny. The first time I went there once before I went out there with you, and there was nothing there. It was just it's kind of a shitty neighborhood. Not like really a dangerous neighborhood or anything, at least that I perceive, but just kind of a dingy neighborhood. And they built that stuff there, and now it's kind of, I think, back to being kind of a whatever kind of neighborhood. But it's
You guys make me think of traveling stories. Do you have any good traveling stories?
Yeah. One time somebody tried to sell us drugs at our hotel room.
No, I mean anything interesting happened while you're on the road, or you stop any place interesting, or
Well, like this, so this trip was kind of interesting because this is the first trip I've gone on where, again, I talk about earlier the hotels. Like we stayed in nice hotels pretty much the whole time, and it's a different experience. Like you check in, and people seem to like care about like where you're going or what you're doing. Whereas like you check into an Econo Lodge or something like that, and it's just like they just look at you like you're a file to be filed somewhere. You're barely even a person. I mean, as far as bad places, one of the places I was staying at in Louisville, one of the earlier times I went down to Louisville, was this just a real shitball motel, like just really like a place had seen better days, and those better days were a long, long, long time ago. And you're staying in a shitball motel if you have shag carpet. Like no hotel built in the last 30 years was built with shag carpet. And so if you go
clean,
right, like how do you clean shag carpet? Answer: you don't. Not really. Like not in any meaningful way. Like you vacuum it and you get up like 1/10 of the shit that fell on it.
That's why shag carpet always ends up being brown shag carpet.
Yeah. Well, this was like green and maybe brown, but maybe it was originally just green. I don't know, but it was very, very nasty. And hotels.com, which is maybe the reason why I don't use hotels.com anymore, had rated it like a 2.5-star or 3-star hotel. And I was like, bullshit. This would be like 1 star for this hotel is a fucking gift. It was a deeply, deeply shitty motel. And I told hotels.com that I was leaving because it was a shitty hotel. And that's one of the things. Brandon and I disagree on that a little bit. Like, I refuse to stay in any place that is not decent. Like, I don't have to stay in a great hotel. Like, I'll stay in, some of the Super 8s, La Quinta is just fine with me. But I refuse to stay in a place that is just shitty. And so I left. I went somewhere else, and I was like, you give me my money back because this is a piece of shit. And I found a little Hilton. It was tucked away in this weird little area. It was a really nice hotel, but it looked like it was just at the end of an alley. And like you couldn't find it. Like, the only way you can find it is by getting directions directly to it, because it wasn't like near anything, but it was a perfectly nice hotel. So yeah, the shag carpet hotel. I mean, there was a murder there last night. Like the previous night, there had to have been. I'm not sure if it was that room specifically, but somebody was killed in that hotel recently. Like, there was fresh blood somewhere in that hotel.
They're lost in the shag carpeting too.
Yeah, there's a finger somewhere in that hotel. Like, if you did a thorough search, you'll find a finger in that hotel somewhere. Guaranteed.
There was I've stayed in several hostels and I enjoyed them all. None of them were particularly bad, but there was one out on the outskirts of the Atacama Desert in Chile that had it was a very basic room, because the whole town was set up for tourists and tourism supplies, San Pedro de Atacama. But like, the hostels were also kept. They didn't need to heat the place a whole lot or anything. It's the desert. It gets cold at night, but not too bad. And it was just a room, with like 3 bunks, and then like there was a kind of gated outer area with some picnic benches and a fire pit, and that was about it.
And I would have left to go stay at the Hilton after like 2 hours.
So yeah, to me, the experience is worth it. I don't even care about it.
So the reason I say that is because, and I like talking to people. It's one of the things Vanessa was like, you just want to go and talk to people. And I feel like I try to push back against that, because like, when I was a kid, I feel like I was a lot more antisocial. But like now, like when I was in Louisville this last time, there was a American Craft Spirits conference was going on there. And like, I like nothing better than just down in the bar and just shoot the shit with, tons of people. So I like to talk to people, but at the same time, I like to have someplace I can go where there isn't anybody and nobody can go. And that's why I like a hotel. Go down to the bar, I can talk to people, have fun, whatever. And then be like, also now I'm going to go upstairs and watch Community and drink, a big glass of bourbon and fall asleep.
So. There was one also out in the Bolivian salt flats that was entirely made of salt. That one was pretty cool. The beds, the walls, everything was made out of salt. And there was one on the edge of it that had like nothing. There was no hot water, no heated, no nothing. And they told us that we had to take our sleeping bags that we got as part of our camp tour fee, and put on all of our long clothes and sleep on, because it was essentially like the mattress was on top of a concrete pillar. So yeah, it kept you off the floor, but it also just let all the cold out, and there was no heat coming in, and it was like 30 at night. So we just like put on all of our long clothes and got in the sleeping bag. And I don't know. I've had some really.
So is that a good story or a bad story?
Well, by your standards, I'm sure it's bad. I don't know, but there are definitely good ones too. Like there was the first one I stayed in ever was in Montevideo in Uruguay, and that thing was a converted old like super wealthy brownstone. Like it had a pool and giant table in the kitchen and all kinds of stuff. It was a really, really nice place.
I think I'm leaning more Brandon here, because Mike, I understand the desire for comfort and convenience, but Brandon's got a point with the adventure. Like, he's seen some stuff that a lot of people will probably never see.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've stayed in some pretty shitty places. I mean, I've been to Iraq, and I've been to Texas, which is worse. I mean, like, for example, when you do your big field training exercise and basic training, the last night you're there, because you once you're done with basic training, the last real thing you do, I mean, it's not right before you leave, but the last big thing you do and you have to pass is your Ruck March. And it's like somewhere between, everybody lies about how long it is. They say it's going to be 15 clicks, and then it's actually longer than that, or maybe it's shorter than that. I don't know. I didn't have a fucking, thing testing out how far we were walking. But obviously you don't want to do that. And if, by the way, if you know what a Ruck March is, like, you're not walking at walking pace. You're like walking at a medium speed jog, which is very difficult. I mean, you're really stepping to keep up. And so obviously you don't want to do that in the middle of the day. So what they'll do is they'll start the Ruck March at like, 3:45, 3:30 in the morning, something like that. That way you finish your Ruck March basically when the sun's coming up, which is very much makes sense. And so what they do is that night, you pack up all your shit. And basically you get in formation at like midnight or whatever the fuck time it is. And they're like, okay, you got 3 hours, lay down and sleep. And it's not like you don't have a tent or anything. You just got like, you got your ruck on your back and all your shelter half and all this other shit. So it's just like, so I've slept just on the ground. So I just choose not to because I didn't enjoy it and I don't want to do that again. And like, and there's some of them. So one of the ones, speaking of hotels, where it's interesting experience. So at the hotel I stayed at in Louisville, I tried out a new hotel. And I won't name it because it's not a positive review, and I don't feel the need to shit on them or anything, but I didn't like it. If you listen to my description of it, you look it up, you can probably figure out which one it is, but I won't go any further into that. It's basically one of these hotels, and Vanessa and I stayed in a similar hotel like this in Madison. And what they are is hotels that are quirky or gimmicky, and they have a thing, and you're like, oh, fuck. And I feel like hotels like that should have a label that it's like, if you're more than 25 years old, don't fucking stay here. Because the gimmick is usually we're kind of a piece of shit, but we cost more than everybody else. And it doesn't make any sense. So my room at this place was, if it was more than 120 square feet, I would be shocked. I mean, there's literally enough space for a queen size bed, which was not a fucking queen size bed. It was a queen size bed that was short. So it was like, imagine a queen size bed that's like, I don't know, maybe 6 inches shorter or whatever than a regular queen size bed. Which, I mean, I'm not a super tall person, but I'm like 5'11". So a queen size bed is like about the right height. So you take 6 inches off of there. It's too short. Next to my bed was the shower. Next to my shower was the toilet, and across from them was the sink. And that was the room. Like there's I could touch both sides of the room.
Yeah, but you didn't have to share it with anyone.
Well, yeah, I had to share. I mean, I'm sharing with, no, I did, because it's too fucking small. I can't think of anything clever to say because I was so furious about it. And it's like the funny, like, it's not it's not a badly kept up room. Like it was nice looking, the bar area was nice, but it was just like, I need a real room. I'm an adult person and I need an adult person room. I don't want a fucking room built for a 12-year-old. And so, yeah, I'm not going to stay at that particular hotel anymore because it's like, and it's also like they've got their little cutesy, like in the elevator, they have like graffiti where it's like, oh, it's eat it, wild eggs or whatever. And it's like, no, those are advertisements. Like, that's not cute. And they've got like Connect 4 in the lobby. And it's like, you are not fucking cute. Cut the cute shit and just be a hotel. Just be a place where there's a person who takes my bags and I can send them upstairs. And not with your fucking cute shit. And there's like a fucking taco restaurant in the lobby you can order on from an iPad. It's like, yes, I get it. It's very cute. And I don't give a shit. I want a hotel.
Kind of angsty.
If you're going to Louisville, stay at the fucking Seelbach or the Brown. That's it. Seelbach or Brown. That's it. No other option.
Most amount of people I had in one hostel was 14 in one room.
That's like a nightmare.
But in Buenos Aires, I had like 6, and I got to really know those people pretty well.
Yeah, I'll bet.
So, Mike, have you ever
you get to know people whether you want to or not?
Have you ever gone to a place where there's like a bellhop or somebody that you have to tip?
Are you asking me or Brandon?
I don't think Brandon would go to a place like that.
Okay, so the place we stayed at in LA, again, I don't know why I'm being so cagey with the names, but it was a very nice hotel. It's a hotel that's, international recognition, blah blah blah. It was in Beverly Hills, no big deal. And it was sort of weird because I felt like we were supposed to tip, but then like when we did tip, I felt like people looked at us kind of weird. So it's like, I don't know. It was a really strange experience to be in a, like, again, we're not going to get deep into class right now because I think we're going to do a whole episode on that and we're going to really deep dive into it. But like, there's a weird thing where in the United States, we pretend like we don't have class, but we obviously have class. And so if you were sort of born into one class or you've been in one class most of your life and you stay somewhere that is clearly above that class, it's a strange experience. You are treated differently and you are looked at differently, and not even in a negative way necessarily, but it's a strange experience. And so staying there was a very strange experience. Yeah, there's like I couldn't go to anywhere and open a door because somebody would already have opened the door by the time I got there. And it's weird. It's weird. It's a strange experience.
I wouldn't like that.
But it is nice. It was it was very nice. Like I have no complaints about the hotel at all. We weren't treated negatively. It was just it was weird to be treated oddly positively, I guess.
I
I
ask
don't know.
because it's kind of a segue into another thing that I wanted to ask about because as far as the tipping goes, and I don't want to, like you said, don't get too far into the classism of it, but or the economic factors behind it. But like last night, for example, I went to a restaurant. I ordered food to bring home for dinner, and I sat at the bar and I had one beer. And then I get my food and my bill, and I'm sitting there and I'm debating in the little tip section. I'm like, well, these guys are kind of counting on this tip, but on the other hand, I just sat here, ordered a beer. I didn't talk to anybody. I just waited for my food, and I'm out. And so it's not like they provided a whole lot of service on the other hand either. So I throw them a bone, but like I'm not going to tip them like if I was sitting there actually having a whole meal. I'd tip them quite healthy, but I just felt like okay, here, thanks. And how do you guys feel about that?
Okay,
I
so
always tip. I always do
I
at
have
least 20.
I have important feelings about this. So I feel like that my politics have changed entirely, and my reasons for it, but I maintain, as I did even when I was much more politically rightward. I despise tipping. I hate it. I think it's a terrible institution. Now, don't get me wrong. I do. I tip everywhere. I tip usually 20%, sometimes a little less. It does feel weird to tip when you're just going, like, for example, if I order something on DoorDash or Grubhub or Uber Eats, which I try not to because I hate those. Like I hate those things. They're bad. It's like the gig economy. And you're just going in to pick something up. It seems really strange for them to be like, "Hey, tip," when you're just walking in and picking something up. I still do typically. Um, there was actually a restaurant Vanessa and I were at in, I think it was in Minneapolis, or it might have been on the way back from LA. I can't remember which. If I remember to tell you, but um, where they basically brought the bill and they were like, "We add 20% to this bill, and it goes to the wait staff and the kitchen staff. So basically, you don't need to worry about it. You just pay your check. Like we don't expect, like you can tip more if you want to, but it's like this is added onto your bill and that's it." And I just wish they would do that, except I wish they would go one step farther and just figure out whatever needs to go to the wait staff and just pay them that, and then increase the food prices commensurately. Because it's so fucking frustrating because you never know where you're supposed to tip and how much you're supposed to tip. Like if you go to a bar and order, like a lot of the places we were going, they have a pretty expensive drink. So let's say I order a $10 cocktail. Does that mean I tip $2 on a $10 cocktail? I don't know. I mean, maybe more, maybe less. I don't know. But it's something that it's dumb. It's a dumb thing for society to do, to make people's lives contingent upon people understanding an incredibly arcane system of tipping. So I hate tipping. Brandon, you go ahead.
Well, and it gives employers an excuse to pay people less than the minimum wage because they can go, well, you get tips. No, the institution of tipping is definitely terrible, and I wouldn't mind seeing it going away and everybody just getting a living wage. But I do tip every single time, no matter what. Usually at about 20% because mutual aid and solidarity. So,
By
Well,
the way,
there's
below in the comments, you'll see our a link to our video on the living wage.
a it kind of leads to that same ideology of the working class. I mean, yeah, okay, solidarity, that's one thing. That's us choosing to help each other out. It's another thing for the powers that be, the owners or whatever you want to call them, to call down to the masses and be like, you help them because I don't want to, basically, is what they're saying.
Well, that's because for a while they were actually taking part of their, the companies would actually take part of their tips. So the company would love for you to tip. I mean, there's another thing, by the way, that goes alongside this that people should know about. And this is something I never knew about until I looked it up a little bit more. Every place you go, they will have a little thing about donate $2 to this or donate $2 to that. And I always feel like there is a kind of a guilty thing about, oh, you should donate $2. You don't understand what they're doing there. What they're doing, they're not asking you to donate. I mean, you are donating to some degree, but what they're asking you for is a tax cut. Because that is a tax write-off for that corporation. All that money that people donate goes through the company, and the company can use that as a tax write-off. So if somebody says, do you want to donate to whatever charity? If you want to, and you should, like we should all donate to charities, you should find out what charity that is, go to their website and donate that money directly. Don't donate it through a corporation, because this corporation is just going to use it as a tax write-off. I know, amazing corporations are doing something fucking shady with our money.
And it's usually right around this time of year.
it's almost like you can't trust them.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, but they do it all the time. They do it all the time. There's always like round up to donate to this charity, and it's sort of this idea. Well, it's a good idea. It's only this much money, and it's like, yeah, but you don't understand that is being used as a tax write-off. You are earning the CEO a bonus.
A local convenience store chain that's doing that right now. It starts with a C. It ends with pizza.
Oh, I love their pizza so much, though.
It is good pizza.
Hey, that's a good question. So, going with our chit chat segues that are tangential sometimes at best. So, my mom loves Chick-fil-A. So whenever I go up to see her in Ames, whenever I go up to see her in the town she lives in, who cares? I'll always usually get her lunch, and lunch is usually Chick-fil-A. I don't agree with Chick-fil-A's policy. I think it's a bad company and I never eat there. But since I'm going there with my mom, I'll usually sort of make because I'm like, it doesn't make any sense for me to stop two different places to get lunch. So I'll just get myself Chick-fil-A when I'm there. It's the only time I ever eat that restaurant. And I know I'm one of the few people who has maintained that boycott for this long, but and to be honest, I feel like over the past few years, I think Chick-fil-A, like the first time I ate Chick-fil-A, I think I got why people liked it. Like I thought their chicken was pretty good. The last few times, I think Chick-fil-A is kind of not that great anymore, like just on a quality level. But I don't know. What are some like places that, like, you don't like the place, but like you go there because they have really good whatever?
Well, I'll just a quick note there. I've been to well, no, I haven't been to I've had Chick-fil-A twice ever. And I just haven't gone to Chick-fil-A because I tend to avoid things that lots of other people like. Like I'm like, there's probably something wrong with that. I'm not going to do it. So,
Sometimes not though. Sometimes a lot of people like it because it's great.
But as far as chicken goes, there's another convenience store chain which has recently kind of exploded in our state. You guys have probably noticed a lot more of them around. It's Quick, but it's not the other. It's a new Quick. It's not the old Quick. Whatever.
You can just go ahead and say it. We don't have to be cagey on everything.
Okay, Quick Star.
Quick Star. I haven't even heard of them.
Really? They're popping up everywhere now, and I gotta say, as far they're like a little mini convenient. They're not just convenient. They're like a little mini grocery store almost. and it's kind of like a slam together thing, but they have, I'm sorry, hands down, their chicken is bomb. I mean, I would probably put Popeyes above it, but other than that, I
Although
mean,
to be
if
fair, you didn't like American chicken, which I find to be incredibly suspect.
I thought it was okay.
You're
I
wrong.
didn't.
It's great.
It no. Here's the thing. Like I
No,
think
no,
the
no.
appeal
I won't
of
entertain this
their
nonsense.
chicken was it seems like somebody that would have made it at home. It was
Well,
like,
first of all, yeah, that's part of what's great about it.
hey, well, I could just do that at home.
I seriously doubt that.
I want something that I can't make by myself.
I don't think you could make it's fine. We're not going to argue about American. We all agree that American is the best chicken in the world and kale is an apostate.
It was good chicken, but they had some other things there that I did want to try.
Anyway, I have
Had
not quite tried. I've not quite Quick Star. I think for me, like Popeyes is just the chicken. I mean, I wouldn't get chicken anywhere else. Like, why would I?
I do like their hot and spicy.
Oh, it's great. And like KFC has fallen so far. KFC used to be so good. Anyway, Brandon, so are there any brands that you kind of know are like evil corporations, but you're like,
I was going to
really
say, I
like
forgot what the question was.
yeah, that's why I'm reiterating because it's chit chat.
Places that make
No, a
food.
place like it's an evil corporation. You know, it's an evil corporation, but you're like, yeah, but I like their fucking chicken.
Not so much on the restaurant. I too am like, yeah, I think I've only been to Chick-fil-A like 2 or 3 times in my entire life. I don't think I had ever gone there before the controversy, and after it, I went a couple of times, just different circumstances led me. But as far as food, not so much. I mean, I don't dig into a lot of the policies on a lot of food places, I guess.
I mean,
Andrea,
they're all
my
terrible.
wife,
We understand that, but
well, Andrea won't go into Walmart for much the same reason. She doesn't like going into Fairway too, because of some of their LGBTQ policies. But there is times where it's just like, this is the cheapest thing or the closest thing, and just got to do it. I mean, I would be happy if every business was, more left wing, but I don't know that businesses really can be left wing. I mean, there's some that are definitely better and try their best, but
I think they could be sort of like outwardly left wing.
Yeah. But say for those like worker co-ops or those rare places where the person that started it up shares the wealth equally, you have exploitation no matter what their outward policy is.
By the way, speaking of places that are bad and probably have bad politics too, I don't know. In Louisville, on the COVID stuff, Louisville is very, very weird because there are certain places that are taking COVID very, very seriously and other places that are pretending like COVID doesn't exist at all, which I think sort of for that city is almost kind of makes sense because Louisville's kind of at the crossroads between the North and the South. Like it is Kentucky, and you can't say Kentucky isn't the South, but it's also pretty far north for being in the South. And so one of my most interesting interactions was I was going to this conference, and I just wanted to grab something quick to eat on the way over there. And on the way there was a White Castle, and we've all heard of White Castle, and they're thoroughly, I mean, their food is just grease shaped into shapes. That is not to say it is not tasty. If you like White Castle, more power to you. You're allowed to like White Castle. But White Castle, I think, is definitely something you could describe as kind of a trashy restaurant. I mean, not a lot of people proudly walk into White Castle. You don't walk into White Castle thinking, gosh, I feel good about myself today. And so I went to White Castle because it's on the way. And the dining room is closed for COVID or because they were short staffed or whatever excuse they had. And so they were just telling everybody to just walk to the drive-through. And so I was standing in a line of like, it was like car, person, car at the fucking White Castle drive up. Nice. At like I don't know, 11, like 12:45 in the afternoon. The previous night, somebody had apparently gotten angry at White Castle and thrown a bunch of garbage down, like right there by the drive-up window. And so you just see like a line of people at like a White Castle in the afternoon, dressed in like, mostly in like sweatpants and t-shirts, just like scrolling through their phones and just like, this is so fucking 2021. Just like a bunch of fucking just depressed people staring at their phones at White Castle. And I just it felt so appropriate. And we got food. I got the cheddar cheese and bacon sliders because again, just what you get. And they were not good at all, but I ate them and they were technically food.
I learned everything I know about White Castle from Harold and Kumar.
I learned everything I know about White Castle from a drive-through at 12.
Actually, you can get their little frozen burgers at DG, I think.
Yeah.
We had them. Actually, no, we had them at the place that we worked, the mail sorting place.
There was I think I was actually early introduced to White Castle because I think they might have come to the St. Louis area early. Because I remember as a kid, my family going and getting White Castle when we were in St. Louis, and that would have been 80s. So.
No, they've been around for a long time. It's just like it's a food that's like you get it. Like I feel like as soon as you see a White Castle, you're like, I shouldn't eat there. Like that's not a good idea for my health or my mental health or anything. But you're like, but also I need to eat something.
This is based entirely on the Ames restaurant, but I have that feeling with Long John Silver's. Like it's just gonna be
okay. You're not wrong, but I also love Long John Silver's.
Once in a while, you just got to get your Long John Silver's fix, man.
The last time I was there before they closed it down, there was a mayfly in the.
I think I was there. I think I remember that.
Cold shredded cabbage. What is that?
Coleslaw.
Coleslaw. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think you were there. Yeah. There's a mayfly sitting stuck in top on the cream cheese or whatever the hell it is.
Well, in defense, it probably didn't make the coleslaw taste any worse.
Probably.
I mean, it's coleslaw.
I mean, their hush puppies are pretty good. Everything else just, I feel like it's gross going in there.
Long John Silver's is the reason I'm addicted to malt vinegar.
I still don't like malt vinegar that much.
Then fuck you.
It's okay. No, so on vacation, speaking of like bad, so I was doing DoorDash. So I've got a credit card that gives me like a $10 credit through DoorDash and a $10 credit through Uber Eats and Grubhub. Sorry, not DoorDash. Grubhub and Uber Eats. And so I was just having like a lazy ass day. I was watching Community because Community is a great, great television show. And if you don't like that, then I don't know what's wrong with you. And so the first place I got was this Chinese restaurant, and I got that delivered. They delivered it, and it was some of the worst Chinese food I've ever had in my life, which is crazy because Chinese food typically is not like, it's not hard food to make, as long as you kind of get it done correctly. And like I had like beef lo mein, and it was bad. And then I had egg rolls, and they were bad. And then I had pot stickers. And I'm sorry, if you're a Chinese restaurant and you fuck up pot stickers, they shut you down. You can't serve food here anymore. Like I don't know if I've ever had bad pot stickers before. Like they're pot stickers. They're great. They're little fried things that you dump in soy sauce and eat, and
they're
good.
Things, and you dip them in ginger soy.
Well, I guess you're snobby, but it's fine. But like everything about the meal was terrible. And like, it's so rare that you get like out and out, like bad Chinese food. Like you'll get sometimes like you'll shitball Chinese food or like Chinese food that's like, whatever, just kind of like a little too, too greasy or whatever. And it's fine. But this was like bad. And then I was like, okay, so to make up for this meal, I'm going to watch 7 more episodes of Community, and I'm going to order more food because why not? And so I hopped on Uber Eats or Grubhub, and there was a soul food place in Louisville, and I was like, oh, soul food. And I looked at the prices, and it's sort of like tapas where there's like little things you can get. And there's not like entrees. It's just like you order a series of whatever you want. And so I got pork chops, fried chicken, green beans, potato salad, and oh shit, what was the other thing? something else. And I got it. And okay, Kale, what describe good soul food? What is good about soul food?
Uh, it's food for the soul. No,
Right, but like
when you say soul food, though, I think that it depends on what your impression is. Like for me, when you say soul food, I think just comfort foods, fried chicken,
mac and cheese.
Mashed
gravy,
potatoes and gravy.
Right, all that stuff.
just and stuff with a lot of sodium and fat in it.
Right, like something that's going to make you feel good now and bad later.
Sticks to your ribs.
And so I opened up the green beans and I took one forkful and I almost threw up. And I don't say that as like because I have a pretty strong stomach. I don't throw up off of anything. But it was so bad. Like it tasted like they had aged the green beans in garbage, not like a garbage can, but like they opened up all the garbage bags and like, ground all the garbage up and then put the green beans in the ground up soupy garbage. And that's how they made the green beans.
When green beans start to turn, they will get bitter and rancid, and it'll not be pleasant.
Well, not to mention the fact that they were like, there's like hard spots. There's like some hard green beans where it's like a stem. It's almost like a stem. And it's like, there's nothing worse than thinking you're biting into soft green beans and getting a hard part. Like that's bad. But when they do that and it also tastes like a garbagey dick, then it's worse. So I literally almost ran to the bathroom. I like started gagging. It was so bad. I then had the pork chops. I'm doing a lot of scare quotes and I apologize, but I have to. They called them pork chops. Now, picture in your mind, we are from Iowa. We have all eaten a fair amount of pork chops in our life. Kale, your fingers are way too far apart for what they're describing. That describes like maybe 3 or 4 of their pork chops. Like this pork chop was so thin, like it was like a piece of paper that they then fried and then gave to me 3 weeks after they fried it.
You know what? I'm going to interrupt you right here because you're hitting on something that is a problem. That like people started to think that just smaller and smaller portions of prettier and finer food was just better. That's why it costs that much more. Look at this tiny little thing that somebody just charged me $50 for. And that's not always the case. If you go to like a 3-star Michelin restaurant, then yeah, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get perfection. But if you're just ordering some tapas from somebody, they're like, oh, here's a little mini thing, and we're going to just, oh, look, we made it in this pretty little sauce. So now we want to charge you $20 for it. It's like, no, you're doing it wrong. This is not worth what you're saying it is.
At the same time, though, I don't want a platter full like every time I sit down. I don't want them to give me like 7 pounds of pork chop and potatoes and just everything else. It's like, because I'm probably going to attempt to eat it and I'm going to feel terrible after. It's just.
I agree with both of you on that. I feel the same way. Like a reasonable plate of food. But just to finish off this thought, so it's like Kale, you worked in restaurants, you fried things. You know how something tastes when it's like been well fried right out of the fryer, and it's got that like it's terrible, but it's like that got that crispy like crunch, like you bite in, she's like it crunches.
On the outside, nice and gooey or tender or whatever on the inside.
Right now, imagine that same thing if you ate it 6 hours after it was fried.
Then you're just eating old food. It's old food. It's never going to be as good as
right. But it's like it's got what I sort of think of as like it's got like a stale crunch. Like it still kind of crunches, but it tastes like it's just been sitting on somebody's lap for an hour.
It's like when you're eating a really good bag of potato chips. Like it may taste good, but you still feel bad on the inside.
Except this would be like eating like a bag of chips you opened 3 weeks ago. Anyway, so the rest of the meal was like, so I had the fried chicken was good, but who gives a shit? If you fuck up fried chicken, then you shouldn't be allowed to make food anymore. And the potato salad was whatever.
Hey, if someone has a passion for cooking and they keep screwing it up, keep practicing. You can only get better.
I mean, hypothetically.
Or poison someone.
All right. Well, we've talked about some food. I think we're going to talk about some more food. But I just want to tell everybody we're kind of splitting this episode up a little bit. So we're going to release the rest of this next week. So if you want to hear more about food and Kale, sort of preview, what else do you have you want to talk about?
Oh man, we barely even touched my list.
Well, I wouldn't want to touch your list.
Since we're on food, let's talk about bananas.
This is supposed to remember you're just previewing, Kale.
All right.
Give me 4 words. Tell me 4 words.
I'm sure that you've all heard of the Chiquita Fruit Company.
That's way more than 4 words.
Well, apparently
bananas. What else?
Pretty dark history.
Bananas. What else?
I rewatch our videos, and
Kale rewatches our videos. What else?
I find stuff that I want to rehash. Oh, there's a few things on Netflix I'd like to see. There's like 4 shows.
Okay, one last thing. One more thing.
People should get to take mental health days.
All right. So if you want to hear about these exciting topics, please come back and we will see you next week. I want to thank everybody for watching. Please like and subscribe and have a good drink and have a good day.
Bye.